Buzz Lightyear, Star Command. I heard there was a space problem in the Old West. Oh, I don't have any problem here. Have you ever seen a movie and something in it just bothered you? You wanted to talk about it. You started talking about it with your friends and they're just like, why are you thinking about it so much? It's just a movie. And it hits you like, oof. Am I not supposed to be thinking about movies? Am I not supposed to be asking questions? Movies are just stories, and stories are just ideas, and ideas are meant to be ruminated on and explored and expounded upon. But discussing movies is dangerous. Fiction relies on suspension of disbelief, and suspension of disbelief relies on coherent rules within the story. But if you break your own rules, you can send yourself tumbling down a cascade of bizarre, unanswerable questions and weird thought experiments that have nothing to do with the premise of the movie you were talking about. A movie that on its surface was just another needless Pixar sequel. But once investigated, becomes a bizarre and surreal labyrinth of terrifying, unanswerable questions about the nature of existence and life itself.
Where do I begin? How do I even start down this road? At first glance, Toy Story 4 might seem like another throwaway Pixar cash grab sequel. Competent, likable, sweet, but ultimately pointless. But it's so much more than that. The suspension of disbelief that the Toy Story franchise was built on takes an insane turn in the movie, imploding the premise into a wild series of bizarre propositions about the universe the films take place in. Questions that, to this point, the series had cleverly avoided. Well, they can't avoid them anymore. Let's start simple. In Toy Story 4, we see Woody questioning his continued life and purpose as an owned toy. He ponders going rogue and ultimately chooses to do so. But then, who was Woody's owner before Andy? Who was Woody's first kid? Woody is a toy from the 1950s, so clearly he was owned by at least one kid before Andy. Does he not remember? If not, up until when does he remember? There is a continuity in his conscious experience between being owned by Andy and Bonnie, so you have to wonder, up until when do toys remember things? How conscious are they? They seem completely conscious to the level of humans, but they're clearly not, because we see Forky become conscious spontaneously in the hands of Bonnie. Normally you could handwave this question. It's a kid's movie, but by literally showing the phenomenon of toy consciousness occur on screen, the film forces bigger questions about how the universe of the movies presents the experience of being a toy.
You're thinking about it too much. Stop overanalyzing the movie. I've been talking to you since I was 9. And you know what? I'm gonna keep overanalyzing the movie. In fact, I'm gonna do it even more.
Do toys become conscious when they're created or when they're played with? As presented, it would appear neither. We never hear a toy talk about being at a factory. With Stinky Pete the Prospector and the toys at Al's Toy Barn, we see that they're all conscious and aware to some degree of their wider role in the world as toys, despite never having been played with. Most of them haven't even been unwrapped. So what, they were just conscious in their boxes? When did they become conscious? Some of the toys believe they are literally the character they represent, like Buzz Lightyear, while others understand themselves as some kind of strange tribute entity, like Duke Kaboom. But the majority of toys appear to have personalities entirely separate from their representative physical form. Woody doesn't act like a cowboy and has strange amnesia about his Woody's Roundup branding. Lotso Huggin' Bear, Rex, Bo Peep, these are entities with personalities and ideals wholly separate from their intended character. Have you seen the way Rex acts? T-Rex don't act like that. This can become incredibly bizarre when considered in the context of what we're shown in the films. What about the chair in Bonnie's closet? It's a toy chair, but it's also alive? This creature, if you can call it that, has a soul by necessity wholly disassociated from its physical form. Let's talk more about that chair, actually. We see many chairs in Toy Story, lots of furniture in fact, that does not appear to be alive or sentient. But that chair is. Why? Because it's a toy chair. What defines it as a toy chair? At a glance, the eyes and mouth being painted on. Thus, a toy chair. In concordance with that idea is that when Forky comes to life, it appears to be directly related to the eyes and mouth being attached to him, transforming him from a spork into a more anthropomorphic entity.
Let me show you what I mean about the googly eyes. See, here's Woody, and here's Woody's hat. This is a toy hat, but it's not alive. Okay, what if I did this? Is this alive? Is this a new creature? Does it remember being Woody's hat? Let's take it one step further. What if I did this to Woody? Is he now seeing out of all those eyes? Or is there now another consciousness inside Woody's body looking out through the eyes? I ask because the inherent aliveness of Woody has very little to do with his physical form. So couldn't there be two entities living in one body? What about this? Is this a toy? It's a frisbee. You play with it. It has a picture of Buzz Lightyear on it. Does that come alive and talk? What are the rules? This is not a toy, and this is not a toy, but it is alive. Is this a toy? Is it alive? How about now? And if it is alive, what can it do?
Let's talk more about the trash. From the moment Forky begins to exist, all he wants is to experience trash, his abstract concept of death. We've seen on screen what happens to trash in this world. In Toy Story 3, it gets motherfucking incinerated. So is becoming conscious in this way confusing and psychologically painful for objects not intended to be toys? As we see in the movie, inanimate objects not conceived as toys have no understanding of their wider purpose or role in the world. Let's talk about purpose. In the first three Toy Stories, where toys are always presented alongside children, this doesn't feel strange. But in Toy Story 4, where we see toys as independent beings living in the wild, this entire dynamic is shifted and made somewhat confusing. Why do these toys, who manifest seemingly entirely as socially and emotionally mature adults, need love from children? What practical purpose does the physical love of children serve? Is this phenomenon of needing to be played with simply cultural amongst toys? Like some kind of religion? Certainly we see toys in the series who have no concept of needing or even wanting to be played with by children. In the first three Toy Stories, this is a mere whimsical element, but in the fourth film, with its wild toys, anarchist toys, scheming toys, and spontaneously crafted toys, it forces these questions. There's an iconic moment in the first Toy Story when Woody and Sid's mashup conglomerate toys turn on Sid. It's a game-changing moment in the film, totally unexpected, and challenges the loose ideas the audience had about the rules of the world. These toys aren't just a fantasy. The Toy Story films take place in our world, and humans who see the toys animate and come to life react to them the way someone would if it happened in real life, aka they fucking shit their pants. Which brings us to the biggest issue that is now unavoidable after Toy Story 4. Let's discuss toys' agency, philosophy, and consciousness as related specifically to human beings. Clearly, toys are by and large benevolent, or at least benign, in their relation to humans. For unknown reasons, toys are compelled to freeze and pretend to be inanimate when humans are present, but this isn't a biological or compulsory condition. Toys have been shown to be fully capable of animating while observed by organic life forms, and Woody even comes to life in Sid's hands. This concept reaches a breaking point in Toy Story 4, which contains a scene wherein toys almost cause a major and potentially deadly traffic accident, and accidentally legally implicate humans for full-on felonies. This, along with the idea of wild rogue toys, and also the notion that certain toys, like Bunny and Ducky, harbor ill will or even violent thoughts towards humans, is a massive, insanely complicated proposition that comes with another tidal wave of questions and suppositions. Again, this might seem like overthinking, until the moment in Toy Story 4 when the toys literally hijack a vehicle and endanger their owner's life to save another toy. So, it has been set up that the concept of pretending to be inanimate is essentially a hustle, or perhaps something like a superstition or religious practice, easily violable should the toys so desire. What, then, is their responsibility to human beings? Let's play this out. If toys witness a child being abused, should they not interfere? What if they witness a felony, like a child being kidnapped, or a murder, or worse? Do toys feel no guilt, no shame about not interfering? Woody felt such intense concern for Bonnie in Toy Story 4 that he willfully manipulated her experience on her first day of kindergarten. Surely the minor unhappiness and discomfort he strived to avoid is tiny in comparison to Bonnie being, say, attacked by a stray dog, or lured into a van with candy, or worse. Where ultimately do toys' loyalties lie if Woody can abandon Bonnie? If wild toys like Bo Peep come upon a serial killer who keeps people locked in a torture cabin in the woods, are they not morally obligated to somehow intercede? What if the serial killer has toys? We've seen that ideologies amongst toys vary greatly. Might the serial killer's toys be complicit or even assist with the killings? Would they battle the morally upright toys to protect his dark secret in some sort of toy thriller? Is this a movie I want to see? Yes, probably. But also, what the fuck? If toys can live in the wild, as it has been established that they can, what does that mean for their relationship to animals? Reliably in Toy Story films, the toys do not freeze up around animals, and animals in every film interact with the toys realistically as animals would, not understanding anything to be out of the ordinary, chasing or attacking toys. So what does that mean for wild toys' interactions with wild animals? Is there an entire undiscovered ecosystem involving wild toys interacting with animals? Are toys an unseen secret element of the animal kingdom and environment and food chain in this universe?
What is alive? What does it mean to be alive? The state is, by definition, temporary. Life ends in death. Do the toys in Toy Story die? We never see one die or lose consciousness. Does the implication mean that they go on?
If humanity dies out from ecological collapse, global thermonuclear war, or a pandemic, wouldn't the toys theoretically live on? Would the vacant Earth become a plastic planet where the surviving magically alive toys become the legacy of humanity, an echo of us, carrying out into the stars as the kind of ultimate postmodern effigy to the human race?
What about Sid's toys, which were torn limb from limb and then reconstructed? In that fishing pole that has legs? Is the soul of that toy in the legs or the fishing pole?
In Toy Story 4, we see a toy that's been torn in half. The top half is alive, but the bottom half is dead. But if that bottom half was stitched onto another toy, would that animate?
Is it cursed to exist like that? Are toys cursed to exist in their smallest infinitesimal pieces, going onwards and onwards forever, never losing their sapience or consciousness of the world around them?
What is a toy? If by the rules of this world there was a human corpse, and you glued googly eyes to it and drew a mouth on it and then left it in the room with a human child, would it reanimate? If it reanimated, would it think that it was the person it was in its previous life as an organic being? Or would it be a confused new sentient being? Would it think it was supposed to emulate the person it was, like some sort of twisted imitation? And in order to bring it to life, do you need a kid to play with it? The darkest image this evokes is, of course, a government super soldier lab. Rows and rows of white rooms with glass walls and children in black jumpsuits playing with corpses to create an army of the undead. Toys running missions in Moscow. A dark Lovecraftian ceremony to bring back a dead lover. Lightning crackling in the sky as a man in a red robe pulls a string back on the corpse of his wife, and she lets out a "there's a snake in my boot" before rising shakily from the altar, human eyes glazed but the googly eyes on her forehead bloodshot and looking hither and thither wildly. The holes in the plot of a story can turn into volcanoes, exploding out with fuel for the human imagination, leading the mind towards endless conjecture and logical loops, ups and downs on a wild carnival ride to nowhere.
Discussions like this aren't negative, and they're not critical.
They're creative.
Movies are meant to be talked about. That's what stories are. We've been doing it since we sat around the fucking fire. We create mythology and myths and lore and legends, and then we challenge them and we redefine them and we revise them. You think there was only one draft of the Bible? Questions like these are what makes movies fun after you're done watching them. Toy Story 4 has more questions than most movies, but I sure did have a lot of fun asking all the questions it refuses to answer.
You got a boo-boo-bee. Yeah. You got a woody and buzz. Toy Story and beer. And everybody wants to break a baboon. And you can say what you brought it in from. You got a boo-bee-bee. You got a boo-boo-bee.
What if I got super glue and glued googly eyes and a mouth to this?
Max, goddammit!
I'm just asking!